Hello, everyone. My name is Gillian, and I am a naturopathic medical student at the National University of Natural Medicine in Portland, Oregon. And I just finished my second year out of 4 in the ND program. And I want to talk about what the second year was like for me while it's still fresh on my mind. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about my course load over the second year, what the time commitment was like, and how it compared to first year, how I balanced life and school, as well as my experience in the clinic, how I began to organize my black book from my class notes, and I want to end it all off with some tips for success as you work your way through the program. So let's get into it. First, let me start with a comparison of the first and second year so you're aware of the changes, since each year in medical school is quite different. So, the first year in ND school is really about establishing a strong foundation of knowledge and an understanding of how the body functions in its ideal state. First year is also about setting up foundational knowledge, like learning how to palpate muscles and take vitals, and also about our various modalities, like learning about herbs, homeopathy, and hydrotherapy. But the second year of school is when you get into block systems. And what I mean by this is each term you take 2 to 3 major classes that are centered around organ systems. And this allows for us to review what we learned from first year in anatomy and physiology about the organ system, or, if it's oncology, going over how the body would normally prevent cancer from developing. And then once we've reviewed all of this foundational knowledge, then we can start to build upon it with pathology. And I find this to be a really useful way to structure our learning because when you understand how the body should be operating, it becomes easier to understand pathology and allows you to think through symptoms one might experience when the physiology is thrown off. And in each block, we spend a big chunk of time talking about the various conditions that fit within it and when to consider them in your differential diagnosis list, how to diagnose them, different diagnoses to consider and rule out, and what a naturopathic treatment plan could look like for that condition. And this is when we relearn herbs, pharmaceuticals, homeopathy, hydrotherapy relevant to that organ system and the conditions of that organ system that those modalities could be used to treat. So, and to support these lectures that are packed with all of this information, we have tutorials and labs to help reinforce our understanding and give us opportunities to apply our knowledge by working with standardized patients and our fellow classmates working through case studies. And just as a quick tangent, I think you definitely know you're in the right field when doing soap notes and coming to a diagnosis is fun and exciting for you. Yes, classes can be super exhausting, but I honestly find this work so fun. It's a puzzle, it's a case that you have to solve, and the stakes are really high in real life because you're dealing with somebody's health. But, just from my pre-medical experiences and shadowing experiences now in medical school, I see just how rewarding it is to be the one to crack the case, especially if, people have been tossed around from doctor to doctor and no one has taken the time to go the extra mile or consider a diagnosis that others didn't. And you're able to finally give someone answers or relief and support. It's a privilege to be involved so intimately with people's lives. So please take this opportunity seriously in tutorials and labs as you practice, because sooner than you realize, you'll be working with actual patients with real concerns that are affecting their lives. Okay, tangent over, back to the second year. Because I'm in the 4-year track at my school, I took a total of 7 blocks over the year: fall term, winter term, spring term. In fall term, we had 2 blocks: neurology, and the other block was musculoskeletal, orthopedic, and exercise physiology, and each of which had a lecture, tutorial, and lab associated with it. I also opted to take an elective this term, which was Nature Cure, and that class teaches us some very simple at-home or in-clinic treatments that are traditional, like castor oil packs, foot soaks, mud therapy, and hot and cold therapy. Powerful treatments that are definitely overlooked as being ineffective, but keep in mind we're often recommending these as supportive or adjunctive treatments that are just one part of the treatment plan. That includes other things like botanicals, lifestyle recommendations, pharmaceuticals, etc. Also, this term, fall term, I had my hydrotherapy shift in the clinic. So at NUNM, we have a clinic attached to our school that offers low cost hydrotherapy and massage to the general public, which is pretty cool. And students in their second year are in charge of using the skills we learned over the first year to perform these treatments while working under supervision, of course. And since I took my massage electives the first year, I was able to give massages to patients as well as hydrotherapy. So it was nice being able to do both. And I think, having us enter the clinic doing hydrotherapy is a really smart baby step to help us get used to charting using Epic, getting familiar with that beast, practicing your interviewing skills to gather info about a patient and why they're coming in today, practicing taking vitals, and also just getting comfortable touching people and interacting with them in a personable and professional manner. And if I remember correctly, I had a 5-hour shift once per week for the entire term. And during the second year, you only have to do your hydrotherapy shift for one term, at least at my school. And I want to make note, if you're able to request doing it during a certain term, try to research ahead of time what term will be your lightest credit-wise. To hopefully avoid overwhelm, try to schedule your hydrotherapy during that term. So that for me was my fall term. Next, winter term, I had 2 blocks as well. Cardiology and pulmonology were combined into one, and then hematology and oncology were also combined. Some people joked that this is the term of things that will kill you. And of course, in each block, there are conditions that could kill you, but this is just a really heavy hitter. And it's a very important term that goes over some common conditions that you're going to see all the time in clinic and in your future practice. So, keep in mind the credit hours of this term will definitely reflect the density of the information that they go over. So, this is the term that I think I had the least amount of free time, just for the record. And for each of those blocks, we had a lecture, tutorial, and lab. And over the winter term, I also decided to take another elective, gut microbiome. This is a topic that I absolutely love, and as a future naturopathic doctor, I better know what I'm talking about when it comes to the microbiome, since it's such a hot topic, and people come specifically to us when they have gut concerns a lot of the time. We're regarded as experts in that field. And that's why I highly recommend this course or one similar to it to just solidify your understanding of this topic. So come spring term, I took 3 blocks: gastroenterology and proctology, metabolism and endocrinology, and urology and nephrology. Gastro and endo had a lecture, tutorial, and lab, but urology only had a tutorial. And during this term, we also had a class called Intro to Clinic to help us prep for the following year, just so that we were aware of kind of what our role would be as secondaries so that we didn't overstep, and also just logistical things like how to log our hours and patient interactions and things like that. And I'm about to start as a secondary in a few weeks. I'm really excited to get into clinic and just be a sponge. And I think that this last year set me up really well for that. So spring term was also the term of the OSCE 1 examination. And I'm going to upload a separate video covering everything about the OSCE and how I prepared for it. So make sure to go check that out if you want. But essentially, the OSCE, which stands for Objective Structured Clinical Examination, is an opportunity to put your skills and knowledge to the test that you've gathered over the last 2 years in school. You enter a room with a camera and a fake patient who's coming to you with a chief complaint, and you have 40 minutes to interview them, perform physical exams, create a differential diagnosis list, including what you think your most likely diagnosis is, with no notes, and you have to create a basic treatment plan as well. I was telling somebody about it and they said that sounds like an escape room. And I thought that was hilarious and kind of accurate. So I guess just approach it like it's a fun escape room. This is a test that you have to pass in order to become a secondary. So they really want to make sure that you know how to operate in a clinical setting, you have the necessary skills to be in the clinic, and you can just make a patient feel safe, comfortable, and understood. So that was my year in courses. As for time management, I'd say my most time consuming term was winter, followed by spring, and my lightest was fall. And compared to year one, I definitely had a lot more free time, but it doesn't slow down all too much. So just keep that in mind. In addition to classes in clinic, I was also an anatomy teaching assistant, which, by the way, is a great way to keep up with your anatomy knowledge as you go through school, and you get paid a little, which is always nice. And since I'm very passionate about herbs, I took the Herb Society's marketing director position as well, which is a great way to keep up with your botanical knowledge throughout school. And then, other than those two extracurriculars, I really tried to hold back my workaholic tendencies, and I decided to not preceptor or work in my free time during this last year. And this was my personal choice. I know several of my classmates who did preceptor during the year, or even just on holiday breaks, and that's wonderful for them. I just had to remind myself, and I'll remind you too, that medical school is a marathon and we all get to choose our pace during the different sections of the race and when we want to take breaks. I personally had a lot going on in my life over this past year, and I know that preceptoring on top of everything would have just been too much. So, this next year, the third year of my program, is when I'll be preceptoring lots, and I'm really excited to see what specialties within natural medicine may be a good fit for me. And of course, I'll be reporting back to you about how it all goes, what I learned along the way, and any tips I accumulated pertaining to preceptoring as I gain just more experience. Okay, I want to finish off this video with some tips for success during your second year of ND school. So the first tip that I'd like to share is to establish a morning and nighttime routine that sets you up for success. Pretty sure I included this tip in my previous videos, but it's just so important. So that's why I'm mentioning it again. And this is what I personally struggle the most with. Routine is actually really challenging for me. So I'm saying this tip to you also as a reminder to myself. And everybody's routine is going to look different, but I think we should just all be aiming to set up a routine that makes us feel good and energized and prepared for the day. Another tip that I'd like to offer is to take 15 minutes over the weekend to download and organize slide decks for the coming week and create a to-do list with due dates of assignments for that week and any larger projects to have on your radar. At any given time, I'll usually have a weekly to-do list that I'm working off of, and also a broader picture to-do list with bigger goals that I'm working on that will just take more time. My next tip for you is to set up a basic black book before you start your classes, so that once your classes start, you can just start populating your black book as you learn new material, and you can just organize it as you go. I'm actually going to upload a separate video on how to organize a black book specifically for ND schools and for NDs that goes over what website I use and the various sections I've made to help keep me organized. The next thing I'd like to mention is that this year, I think, is the best year to start exploring your personal interests within the field of natural medicine. Set aside some funds, whether that be from loans or other sources, for conferences. Make sure to take advantage of scholarships to help with the travel expenses. Research preceptors and potential mentors in specialties that you're interested in. Maybe reach out to them if you have time and if you're wanting to preceptor at this stage in your education. Join clubs that align with these interests, and don't forget to make time for other interests as well and life in general. I think your true success while in school, and I think in life in general, is dependent on how well you can balance everything, all the different aspects of your life. It's not always easy, so always give yourself grace for not being perfect and try to be realistic with yourself about what you're actually capable of taking on so you don't overwhelm yourself. Again, I'm reminding myself of this as I speak. And my last tip for you pertains to hydrotherapy rotations. At NUNM, we do one term of it, but at other schools, you may do another year of observation instead, or you may step into the clinic in a different role. But any which way, I want to share something that really helped me avoid looking flustered in front of my patients. So, when I entered my rotation, this was the first time that I'd ever used Epic, which can be really confusing to use at first when you're just getting used to it. So, in order to help me, I typed out, printed, and carried around a little Epic cheat sheet in my pocket. And essentially, it was just a step by step guide like click schedule, drag patient under my name, change the color of the dot next to the patient, open the pre-charting tab, fill in the sections. And this was just really helpful for me to just set up discreetly next to my computer while I was in the room with the patient so that I could listen to them and be fully present with them while also not having to fumble my way through Epic, wasting time and looking silly. Um, over time, these steps will become more automatic, but right now, I think it's perfectly fine to use tools like that just to make things more streamlined for you and your patients. So that concludes my tips for you as you go through the second year of schooling. I wish you nothing but the best. Feel free to drop any questions, comments, or even tips that you may have for other students that you want to share. And please subscribe to my channel to get notified when I post some new videos. I'm going to be uploading videos on how to organize your black book, how to prep for the first OSCE exam, and also how to prep for the first NPLEX exam very soon. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.